Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Oof. All right, get in there. Oh my goodness. Oh, we got a crazy baby tonight. Uh-huh. Head that way. Hey, sassafras. I'm gonna pick your nose if you don't move your head over there. I'm gonna pick it. I'm gonna get all those good boogers. I'm gonna get them. It's gonna happen. Give me your boogers. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna do it if you don't get over there. Okay. All right. Well, at least your head isn't. Your feet aren't on your pillow anymore. Oh man, I broke my nail. Man, it happens. All right. Are you ready to continue story time tonight? Oh, I don't think you want me to scratch you now. I got this broken nail. Hold on, let me. Yeah, it's a little better. You got the itchy knee? Itchy knee? Yeah. I'm using my razor nail. Mommy can't speak tonight. Okay, here we go. Ready? We're going to continue. So last night we ended with finding out that Joseph is alive. And his dad was so happy, right? So happy. Hey, stop it. Itch your own legs and maybe even cover up a little bit. I don't need YouTube flagging videos because you decided to spread eagle in your diaper. Okay. Here we go. So, we continue with South into Egypt from Genesis 45, verse 27, 28, and chapter 47, chapter 48, chapter 50, verses 1 through 15. But Father, we all saw him. He wants you to come to Egypt to see him. Look, the wagon's loaded with food and gifts from Joseph. For you. Joseph, the son of my beloved Rachel, is alive. Oh God, I thank thee. I thank thee. The exciting news spreads quickly throughout the camp. So, I'm allowed to use my own two hands, okay? Yeah. You know, you have nails too. You could, oh boy. Now you've got limp fingers. Uh-huh. Whatever. The exciting news spreads quickly throughout the camp. Soon the tribe of Jacob begins moving south toward Egypt. On the way, Jacob stops to worship at a place where he had worshipped as a boy. That night, God speaks to him in a vision. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will go with thee. Down in Egypt, Joseph and his family wait anxiously. Is my grandfather rich and powerful like Pharaoh? Not like Pharaoh, my son, but he is the chief of a tribe. When I was just a young boy, he gave me a beautiful coat of many colors. Do you still have the coat? It was taken from me before I came to Egypt many years ago. For a moment, Joseph relives the time when his brothers sold him as a slave. Suddenly, a messenger interrupts his memories. Excellency, your father and brothers are camped in Goshen. Joseph hurries to his chariot and races toward his father's camp. Father, oh my father, my son, God has answered my prayers. Back in the city, Joseph proudly presents his father to Pharaoh, who gives Jacob the best pasture land in all Egypt. May God bless you for your kindness to us. For 17 years, Jacob and his sons live happily in Egypt. Then one day, a messenger brings sad news to Joseph. Sir, your father is very ill. He wants you and your sons to come right away. They hurry to Jacob's bedside. Bring your sons to me so I can bless them before I die. May God, who has guided me all my life, bless my grandsons. Because of the wickedness of his older sons, Jacob gives the family birthright to Joseph and his sons. Then Jacob calls all of his sons and to him and blesses them. Jacob dies, and his sons carry the old chieftain's body back to his homeland of Canaan. After Jacob's funeral, Joseph walks away from the camp alone. His brothers watch him suspiciously. Joseph was good to us while our father lived, but now he may get even. There's only one thing to do: death sentence. From Genesis chapter 50, verses 15 through 26, and Exodus chapter 1, verse 1 to 2, and Exodus chapter 1 through chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. Following the burial of their father, Joseph and his brothers go back to Egypt. But the brothers are afraid that Joseph may now take revenge for the evil they did to him. We have only one course to take. Let's wait until we reach Egypt. Yes, our families are there. In Egypt, the brothers waste no time. Take the message to our brother Joseph. Joseph weeps when he hears the words of the messenger. Bring my brothers to me. Is it possible that even yet they have not learned that I have forgiven them? Our message contained the words of our Father, asking you to forgive us. We will work for you as servants if you demand it. We pray, do not harm us or our families. Do not be afraid. You did evil, but God used it for good. For years, the sons of Jacob lived happily in Egypt. What, baby? No, baby, I'm not going to play your game for you. You have to play your game. Well, you want me to plug it in? Okay, that I can do. That I will do. When you get the cord out, I will definitely plug it in for you, sweetheart. But I'm not going to play it for you, okay? There you go, honey. For years, the sons of Jacob lived happily in Egypt. God has been good to us, more than we deserve. As long as I live, I will thank God and seek his forgiveness. When Joseph is very old, he calls his relatives to him. God will bring you out of this land unto the land which he gave to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. When you return, take my body with you, for I would be buried in the land of my fathers. Soon afterward, Joseph dies. All Egypt mourns Joseph's death, but as new rulers come to the throne, the new king does not like us Hebrews. He has forgotten that it was our ancestor Joseph who saved Egypt from famine. This could mean trouble for us. From his royal yacht on the Nile, the king frowns as he watches the Hebrew shepherds with their rich flocks. There are too many Hebrews in Egypt. In case of war, they might turn against us. How can we keep them from causing trouble? The next day, the king inspects a new building project. We need workmen, thousands more than we have. I have it. The Hebrews will work as slaves. It will save us money, and they won't be able to cause trouble. So from daylight to dark, Hebrew men and boys are driven from their homes, forced to work under whip-cracking slave drivers. The Hebrews are strong. We work them harder every day. But there are more Hebrews than before. The king will not be happy about this. When the king hears the report, I'll take care of the slaves. Throw every Hebrew boy in the river. The cruel order is carried out. Hebrew mothers and fathers risk their lives to protect their sons. But the king's men never give up their search. Night after night, one Hebrew father hurries home from work, afraid that the soldiers have visited his home. Oh God, help me save our boy from the Egyptians. Cry of a slave. From Exodus 2, verses 3 through 11. There's Miriam, a sign that my little son is still safe. Quickly the father enters the home and bolts the door. Surely God is with us. Our baby's 3 months old and still Pharaoh's soldiers have not found him. God will help me find a way to save our son. Next day, the mother sets about preparing a little basket. Keep watch, Miriam. I'm almost finished. Then, carefully avoiding the Egyptian soldiers, She takes the basket and her tiny son to the river. I am not gonna play your game. All right, hold on. Where's the bookmark? Fall into my butt again. Everything else does. Where did it go? Okay. There it is. All right. Let me crack your toes. Yeah? Okay. Cracking toes. Cracking toes. This isn't going to cut down your reading time. Your toes aren't cracking. You have to relax. You can't stiffen up as I do it. It doesn't work that way. Goofy boy. Okay. Then, carefully avoiding the Egyptian soldiers, she takes the basket and her tiny son to the river. Brother's basket floats like a little boat. Keep watch over him, Miriam. Oh, my son, it tears my heart to send you away. May God watch over you and protect you always. Miriam hides in the bulrushes and watches. The princess! Will she see the baby's basket? Look, what a strange little basket. I wonder what's inside it. The maid brings the basket to the princess, who opens it. A Hebrew baby! Listen to him cry. He must find someone to feed and care for the child. At this point, Miriam steps forth. Shall I find a Hebrew nurse for the baby? Yes. Bring her to me as soon as you can. Mother, come at once. The princess has found our baby and she wants a Hebrew nurse for him. God has answered my prayer, Miriam. My son will be safe with the princess. At the river's edge. Take this baby and care for him. If anyone questions you, send word to me at once. So the Hebrew baby is returned to his own home, but now under the protection of the king's daughter. That night, the mother, father, Miriam, and young Aaron kneel and pray. Oh God, we thank thee for saving our little son. Help us to train him to serve thee. The little boy lives in his home until he is about 4 years old. Then his mother takes him to the palace to live with the princess who has adopted him. He will be my son. His name will be Moses because that is like the word that means to draw out. And I drew him out of the water. Years pass, and the boy Moses lives the life of a young prince in Pharaoh's palace. He learns to write and read. Later, he goes to college. One day, he drives through the city to a place where Hebrew slaves are working. As he watches the slaves toil, he is startled by a man's scream. The fiery bush, from Exodus 2:11 through 3:4. Moses jumps from his chariot to investigate and finds an Egyptian guard beating a Hebrew slave. In sudden anger, Moses strikes out hard. Look, he killed the guard. The next day, Moses returns. When he sees two Hebrews fighting, he tries to stop them. Why do you fight among yourselves? Who made you a judge over us? Are you going to kill me as you did that Egyptian? If Pharaoh hears of this, he will accuse me of being a traitor. There's only one thing for me to do. I must do it now. Later that day in the palace, Prince Moses killed an Egyptian guard for beating a Hebrew slave. Find the traitor and kill him. Pharaoh's orders are too late. Yeah, you're weird. You liked that, didn't you? Moses has a head start on the soldiers who chase him. He escapes, and after long, hard riding, reaches the land of Midian. One evening, he rests by a well. Get away from here until we water our sheep. No, we were here first. You leave us alone. Stand back. The girls were here first. The cowardly shepherds retreat, and Moses helps the girls with their flock. The girls return to their camp. One of them tells her father what happened at the well. Where is this man? Find him and invite him to eat with us. I am Zipporah. My father Jethro invites you to eat with us. Moses accepts the invitation, and that night after supper, I need a shepherd. Why don't you sleep with us? Thank you, I will. This will be a good place to hide from Pharaoh. Moses stays weeks and then months. He marries Zipporah, and in time they have 2 sons. Gershom handles his sling very well. He'll make a good shepherd, like his father. Year after year, the flocks of Jethro increase. One year, the grasses dry up, and Moses leads his sheep to pastures near the mountain of Sinai. But Moses cannot forget the Hebrew people in Egypt. I wonder if Pharaoh is still alive, and what has become of my sister Miriam and my brother Aaron. He wonders too about the Hebrew slaves still struggling under the whips of Egyptian rulers. One day, he looks up to see a strange sight on Mount Sinai. A bush on fire, yet it is not destroyed. He steps closer, then stops. A voice from the fiery bush calls out, Moses! Pharaoh's revenge. From Exodus 3:4 to 5:21. Here I am, the voice continues. I am the God of your fathers. Go down to Egypt, tell Pharaoh to set the Hebrews free. Who am I to speak to the Pharaoh of Egypt? Oh, I skipped a bit. Here I am. Once again, Moses starts towards the bush, but the same voice warns him, do not come nearer. Take off your shoes, for the ground you walk on, the ground you stand, which you stand is holy ground. Dyslexia, man, it really gets me. And God says, I am the God of your fathers. Moses says, who am I to speak to Pharaoh of Egypt? Moses is afraid of the Pharaoh of Egypt, afraid he cannot speak properly, afraid the Hebrew people will not believe him. But God assures him, go, your brother Aaron will speak for you. I will be with you. Moses obeys. He returns to the camp and tells his father-in-law what God has called him to do. Go in peace. God will strengthen you as he has promised. And so Moses sets out for Egypt with his wife and sons. Meanwhile, in the slave huts of Egypt, the Hebrews are asking God to help them. While Aaron, the brother of Moses, is praying, God speaks to him. Go into the wilderness to meet your brother. Aaron is surprised at the strange command, but like Moses, he obeys. Soon he is alone in the wilderness. Moses has been gone from Egypt for many years. Will he know me? Does he know I'm coming? I wonder what God wants us to do. Aaron's questions are soon answered. He meets his brother at Mount Sinai. Moses! Aaron, I have been watching for you. How did you know I was coming? God told me you would come to help me. Quickly, Moses explains that God has called them to lead the Hebrews out of slavery in Egypt. Plague of death. Come on, Rich. Oh, for God's sake. I just want the time. Okay. Plague of death. When Moses and Aaron demand the release of the Hebrew slaves, Pharaoh is furious and makes the slaves work harder than before. In anger, they turn against Moses. Moses seeks God's help and is told to visit Pharaoh again. Show me how powerful your God is. When this rod strikes the ground, it will become a serpent. Aaron's words come true, but Pharaoh only laughs. You are clever, and my magicians can do the same thing. Pharaoh calls for his own magicians. They too throw down their rods, which become serpents. See? But while Pharaoh watches the serpent of Aaron devour the serpents of the Egyptian magicians, Pharaoh is stunned. But he refuses to admit that Moses' God is more powerful than the gods of Egypt. Again, Moses seeks God's help. And again, God tells him what to do. In the morning, Moses and Aaron meet Pharaoh on the bank of the river Nile. What are you doing here? Because you will not let the Hebrews go, the river will be turned to blood. At Moses' command, Aaron strikes the water with his rod, and the water turns red. I don't dare bathe in that bloody stream. When women come to wash their clothes in the river, they are turned back. Men have to dig wells to get drinking water. Finally, the river is clear again. But still, Pharaoh will not listen to Moses' plea. And so God sends a different plague. In the streets of the city, frogs, a million of them everywhere. And in the Egyptian home, eek, a frog in my bread dough. Even in the palace, frogs in my bed. I can't stand this. Send for Moses and Aaron. Ask your God to take away the frogs, and I will let the Hebrews go. It shall be as you say. But when the frogs are gone, Pharaoh breaks his promise. So still another plague descends on Egypt. First there comes the plague of lice. Later, great swarms of biting fleas fill the air. Once again, Pharaoh promises to free the Hebrews. But when the flies disappear, he breaks his word. Then disease breaks out among the cattle, and Pharaoh and his people suffer from painful boils. Father, were the slave drivers cruel today? They are always cruel, son. But right now they are suffering from terrible boils while we are strong and healthy. Still, Pharaoh keeps the Hebrews in Egypt. So a terrible storm strikes. Hailstones as big as my fist. Throughout the land, the Egyptian farmers watch the storm with terror. Our crops are ruined. But no hail falls on the land where the Hebrews live. Later, millions of locusts swarm through the lands. After a strong wind blows them away, the day becomes as dark as night. It's so dark, I'm afraid. Will these terrible troubles never cease? After 3 days of darkness, Pharaoh calls for Moses and Aaron. I'll let your people go, but your sheep and cattle must remain in Egypt. No, not a hoof shall be left behind. Then you shall stay, and you, get out of here. If I see your face again, you'll die. Quickly, Moses calls for a meeting of the Hebrew leaders. God has told me that the angel of death will cross Egypt, taking the firstborn of every family. Firstborn of every family? Wait, we will be saved if we obey God. Trapped. Okay, this is the last part that we read. From Exodus chapter 11, verse 16 through 14, verse 12. Yes. Moses has told the people that at a certain hour death would strike the firstborn in all Egypt, but he has also told them how to protect their families. Why are we putting lamb's blood on our doorposts? God told Moses it would be a sign for the angel of death to pass over our house. 9 times Pharaoh has broken his promise to us. What will he do this time? Surely this will bring our release from slavery. That evening, every Hebrew family gets ready to leave Egypt. They eat a feast called the Passover because the angel of death was passing over their homes. This dough has no yeast. We'll have to eat flatbread cakes. Be ready for the signal to march. And at midnight, the angel of death strikes all Egypt. In the palace, your son is dead, O Pharaoh, and messengers bring word that the firstborn of every Egyptian home has died suddenly tonight. My son, summon Moses and Aaron at once. It's too late, my son is dead. This time Pharaoh does not bargain about cattle or sheep. Take your people, take your cattle, and get out of Egypt. Serve your God as you have said. The order to march is given. Immediately the slaves rush out from their slave huts and meet at a camp in the country. We're free, we're free. Thank God, my children will not be slaves in Egypt. The next day, the great exodus from Egypt is on its way. Joyfully, the Hebrews march toward the land God has promised them will be their home. They are guided by a bright cloud by day and by a pillar of fire by night. But in their rush for freedom, they do not forget to take with them the body of their great leader Joseph. He was a great man in Egypt, but he has to be buried in his homeland. After several days of travel, they reach the Red Sea. The sea is in front of us and the mountains all around. What will we do now? Where will we go? Meanwhile, back in Pharaoh's palace, why are you having a war? It was a mistake to let those Hebrew slaves go. Who will do our work for us now? It isn't too late. Look, the route they took will lead them into this trap. Excellent. We'll strike at once. The slaves will soon be back at work making more bricks than before. Pharaoh's army soon approaches the camp of the Hebrews. Look, here comes the Egyptian army. There is no way to escape. It's your fault, Moses. We're trapped. Why did you bring us out here to die? And that's where we'll stop for tonight. Ooh, this book is starting to fall apart. All right. Yeah. Okay. It is bedtime, good sir. All right. Good night, all. Yes, in the street.